horrific serial killers who are free right now. This video here might really freak you out. Our society surprisingly seems to be interested in knowing about serial killers. We do all crazy things associated to these killers, from making movies to writing books about them, or even by putting their statues in our museums. You must have heard of the famous ones like Ted Bundy, Jeffry Dahmer, and the notorious killer clown John Wayne Gacy. But don't worry, they no longer exist. So, you're safe. Huh? Well, actually, there are a few serial killers who are famous and are roaming the world freely. They may be even around you, in your country, or even in your city. So, if you thought you could sleep safely, well, no, here are a few horrific serial killers that are free right now. Be sure to subscribe to Did You Know and hit the bell so you never miss an upload from us. Also, leave a like right now. 1. Kabe Cannibal. The Kabe Cannibal has a sadistic story attached to his name. He is responsible for killing a woman and having sex with her. It doesn't end here. He ate the deceased Dutch woman named Renee Hartevelt, and yes, he did those things in that order. He was moved into an asylum after being declared as psychotic. However, within 15 months, he was set free due to the influence from his rich dad. The surprising part is that he lives freely in Tokyo now and is kind of a minor celebrity. He starred in movies, written books, and speaks at public events, even mentioning that eating people tastes like tuna. It's weird that Japan is letting this guy become famous. However, it's the same culture that brought tentacle porn and bagel heads, so yeah, it's nothing surprising. 2. Predator from Ciudad Juarez. Belonging to Mexico, this unidentified slayer has the blood of 165 people on his hands. Since 1993, more than 500 women have been killed in Ciudad Juarez, making it one of the most life-threatening cities in the world. The strange part is that almost 1/3 of all the killings are so alike that it's believed that there's one lunatic behind them. We can think of two scenarios behind these killings. There's a gang of murderers on the run, killing people in Mexico, or there's just one killer who's really good at covering up. Either way, rethink planning a vacation to Mexico. 3. Monster of the Andes. Born in Colombia, this insane murderer was famous for killing young girls, and between 1969 and 1980, he killed an alarming number of girls at 350. 110 became his victims in Ecuador, and 240 were killed by him in Peru and Colombia. The worst part was the punishment he had to serve. Only 20 years for all those killings, as Ecuador has no death sentence and a maximum prison sentence of only 20 years. He was set free in 1999, having served almost 3 weeks per victim, and like most of the offenders do, he did not learn his lesson, as he's wanted by Interpol currently for a murder he's suspected to have done in 2002, meaning that he's actually been roaming free for almost 2 decades now. Nothing to worry about. I hope you stay safe. Sweet dreams. 4. Karachi Child Killer. Number 4 on the list is the child killer originating from Karachi. He's an unidentified madman who targets only kids. Between the years 2012 and 2013, more than 15 children went missing, and when found, they were all viciously murdered. This year, however, has been more terrorizing, with more than 190 child kidnappings being reported in Karachi. With the problem looming large, police have suggested parents to not let children out at night. Look, I don't want to make things sound funny here, but if the Pakistani police go the extra mile, they surely can get hands on this killer. 5. Finland Slayer. This psycho was born in Finland, and he committed his first murder at the age of 22 when he killed a husband and wife and their boy over a bike. After that, he's been in and out of prison a couple of times, as he keeps himself busy with car theft, parole deviance, assault, and even killings. Moreover, he's broke free from prison 5 times in the past 20 years. In spite of all of this, in July of last year, authorities were convinced of reducing his sentence to 10 months, meaning that he's on the streets again. So if you're living in Finland or Sweden, I advise you to find other means of transportation, because Stabby McStabberson's on the loose, and he has a strange idea fixe for bikes. You've been told, so watch out. 6. Highway Serial Killers. The killings coming from these murderers are really distinctive, as they involve almost 200 murderers responsible for 450 deaths over the last 40 years. Females in the sex trade are usually victims of these killings, and their chopped bodies can be found across every highway in the USA. These killings become so problematic that the FBI launched the Highway Serial Killings Initiative for the protection of innocent people and to uncover the people behind these notorious killings. The initiative involved tips such as not to get into a truck with a complete stranger. Ha, good thing they told me. I was just planning to go on a truck ride with a stranger. I feel safe. 7. Metal Fang. Metal Fang is number 7 on the list. Belonging to Kazakhstan, this madman is known as Metal Fang for his metal teeth he has, with which he's devoured 50 to 100 women that he murdered. Due to schizophrenia and insanity, he was always acquitted for his crimes. He's been in the asylum for almost 30 years, and it was heard that he is sane and lives a free life now. Some of his doctors, however, stated that his cannibalistic nature would always remain with him, and as you heard, he's living a free life. He could travel to any part of the world, he could be anywhere, even in your loft. Go check it out! 8. Long Island Serial Killer. This murderer is responsible for killing 10 to 14 women that were linked to the sex trade since 1996. The name he got came from the style he dumped his victims along Ocean Parkway on Long Island, New York. People even believe that this psycho killer has retired from any of the law enforcement agencies and he has vast in-depth knowledge of police procedures. So do we have a real Dexter running in town? Well, that sounds safe. It may be for serving and protecting and chopping you into pieces. 9. Smiley Face Killer. Another unidentified murder on the list of the Smiley Face Killer, who has the blood of 200 people on his hands. Any young man after a late night of partying would be found drowned after some time. The name was given to the killer by the police as the killer left a graffiti smiley next to the body of the deceased. The interesting part is that, similar to the highway killings, these occurred across the United States. So you better not trust anyone who's always smiling or happy. They're probably a lunatic. 10. The Mexicali Ripper. The Mexicali Ripper is an unknown murderer from Mexico who has killed more than 40 women since 2008. This crazy killer does not remember his victims throwing their bodies into canals or empty spots in the city. Until 2011, police were not able to trace the killer, so they ruled out the very existence of the killer. But as the threat has loomed large, they have no choice now. Wait. The Mexican police tried to cover this up, but that's deception. The Mexican police are not corrupt. Nah. 11. Karla Homolka, a lady on the list. Yes, serial killers are not limited to men, it could be anyone. Karla Homolka from Canada, alongside her husband, raped and murdered many women, including her own sister. When the police arrested the husband and wife, Karla turned the evidence on her husband in exchange for a reduced sentence. She only served 12 years and was released in 2005. Beware guys, the manslaughterer is out and may be hunting. 12. The Italian Killer. The Italian Killer is a title given to the serial killer from Italy. Bartolomeo Gagliano was convicted of murdering 3 sex workers in the late 80s. He was sentenced for 8 years in an asylum, which he and a fellow prisoner escaped to murder 2 more prostitutes on Valentine's Day in 1989. Gagliano said that he was killing people carrying the HIV virus, and in 2013, he broke free from prison yet again in Genoa, Italy. He is armed and could be a life threat. 13. The Patient Killer Arnfinn Nesset is a serial killer who lives in Norway. He worked as a nurse when he killed 22 patients and tried to kill more. Throughout the 80s, he poisoned his patients with a muscle relaxer. According to Norwegian criminal law, the maximum sentence was 21 years. However, Arnfinn served 12 years and was released. He is now living with a different name somewhere in the world. Is he your nurse? Watch out for him. 14. The Lainz Angels of Death. The Lainz Angels of Death were a group of nurses, namely Maria Gruber, Irene Leidolf, Waltraud Wagner, and Stefania Meyer. These Austrian nurses murdered their patients by overdosing them with morphine or by forcing water into their lungs. The exact killings coming from the nurses are unknown, however they admitted killing 49 people. Wagner and Leidolf were given life sentences in 1991. However, Meyer and Gruber were given lighter sentences. As of 2008, the Angels have been set free. Oh man, hospitals could be so scary. 15. Mitchell Johnson and Andrew Golden. These boys are not traditional killers, and they did the killings without any motive. The school shooters were responsible for killing 4 fellow students and a teacher and injured 10 others. Being juveniles, Johnson 14 and Golden 12, they were only imprisoned until they were 18. They are the only school shooters roaming freely in the United States. 16. Alexander Rubel. Alexander Rubel from Estonia killed 6 people in a single year. All his killings had a few things in common. The victims were stabbed and beheaded. Though he was a minor at the time of his crimes, he received 8 years of mandatory sentence and was released on the 8th of June 2006. He is reported to be living in the Ukraine currently. 17. The Night Stalker. Night Stalker is a killer from California who murdered 12 people between 1976 and 1986. He has a fetish for class rings and murdered his victims for stealing it from them. The Night Stalker is still at loose, and people, if you like wearing jewelry, reconsider wearing rings in California. 18. Colonial Parkway Killer. Similar to the highway killings, however, the Colonial Parkway Killer targeted couples traveling between the scenic roads of Virginia. All the killings were made in pairs. The killer would stop the cars as if he was a law enforcement agent and then would take out his victims. Little is still known of this maniac. Having all that said, when a serial killer is caught, it's assumed justice will be served and everyone will be safe, as the murderer would be punished and would be taken far away from your loved ones. The streets are once again safe to walk without fear of becoming prey to a serial killer's whims. However, this remains a fantasy, as these serial killers do not remain behind the bars all the time. Some of them cut loose, and some of them are free to live among your family and friends. That's it, guys. If you guys found the video interesting, you should check out the video, The Creepiest Death Rituals Around the World. It'll scare you a little bit, but it's super duper fascinating. We'll be back soon with a new video. Thank you.